Alrighty, so we are back for another episode with this video that CNA Insider put out, which is Millennials and Gen Z, Young and in Debt. Why? Talking point, full episode. So the previous episode we talked about Joey, who was a gig worker, earning $5,500 a month. So in that episode, there is two ladies that were interviewed. One was Joey, which is the gig worker that we covered in the previous video, and the second one is Honey. And this lady, her situation is a little bit different, but just let's take a look at and see what we can get out of it.
Are you on track for payments for your large expenses? Yes or no?
No. My HDB is around 300,000, and for my school loan, I'm left with 15,000, and it will just cut down automatically in my credit card.
You are paying off your student loan using your credit card.
Yes.
Okay. And do you pay on time for your credit card?
Yes, but there are some days we miss.
Do you manage to save? If I were to ask you to be honest with yourself, what do you think is the main reason why you haven't been able to save as much as you want to?
There are some things which I feel like I'm distracted by, and peer pressure, like your friends having the same makeup product, the same bag, and you kind of like feel like you missed out. Online doesn't really help because everyone is promoting everything.
They're making it too easy.
Yeah, and it's like tempting for you to shop more and get more foundations in the same shade.
You know what I'm hearing, girls? The online shopping.
Yeah, it's an addiction, I would say. The unnecessary spendings, because there are extra things that I will feel good after spending it.
Give me an example of a very expensive, unnecessary item that made you feel good.
Usually higher end makeup, around $300.
How often do you do that? To plonk down $300 for makeup, for example?
I will try not to make it every month, but it's becoming to be an every month thing.
So Honey here has some problems on her hand, and the first one is paying off a student loan. So student loans in Singapore is at roughly 4 to 5% with a 2.5% processing fee. So Honey has roughly 15,000 of student loan left, and this amount is not really huge and not really small at the same time. But ideally, this loan should be paid off with cash rather than your credit card. So one of the biggest reasons is because if you fail to pay your credit card bills on time, this will add up another sum of interest on top of the loan that you already have with your student loan. So this will eventually start to snowball. And for credit cards, the loan amount, or if you miss your payment, is like 2% a month. So that is not a small amount as well. It could really stack up really fast. So one of the easiest way to pay off your student loan that I learned from a colleague of mine was that she set aside an amount every single month that is gyroed from her salary or from her spending account, and it goes straight into paying off that loan. So when she does this, she doesn't really have to think about the loan, whether she has paid the loan, whether she has not paid the loan, and this really takes off a lot of things from her mind. So if you are paying off your student loan right now, I think this could be something that you want to consider, which is to get it gyroed from the salary straight away. So this puts out the thinking, and this doesn't give you that temptation that you want to spend a little bit more this month, you want to spend a bit lesser the next month, things like that. So once you do that, I think it's going to save you a lot of time, and at the same time save you a lot of hassle as well. So the next problem she have is really lifestyle inflation, right? So she spends $300 a month getting foundations of the same shade, buying high-end makeup, and chances are most of us fall for this, so even me. So I always get distracted by purchasing new camera, or the new latest production stuff, or the new latest lens, the new latest kit, the new latest light. I do have that habit, but right now I already have everything that I need, so it doesn't really bother me that much, and chances are it's very normal that you feel the same, because that is how marketing works, right? It just makes you want to buy the latest, the most shiny stuff, the latest and the newest things in the market. So the key here is to have discipline. So it's really to have discipline to buy things only when you need them, and then the wants can always come back in the future. So maybe because she spends $300 a month for makeup, my wife uses makeup as well, but I don't think she spends $300 a month every single month in that case for makeup, because if you think about it, makeup's like a consumable item, right? You use your lipstick, you use your foundation, your eyeliner, your brown liner, whatever liner that you have, chances are you will need to refill that supply or to buy again because you are almost out of it. I think one of the easiest way is to buy makeup that you actually use and my wife has a lot of makeup that she used before and now it's just sitting in a cupboard. So sometimes we tend to buy a bit more and then we end up not using it at all, which becomes a waste, bad for the environment as well.
It's very seamless, convenient, and very easy to use. And I do need an eyebrow pencil, so let me show you. I enter the app and I search out the makeup shop that I want to find my brow definer, and I click checkout, and automatically Otomi splits my payments.
Buy now, pay later is just as its name suggests.
So let's talk about buy now, pay later. So I think that the business of buy now, pay later set some discussion about the good and the bad online. To me, personally, I feel that if you are not able to get a credit card in Singapore, chances are you shouldn't be using buy now, pay later as well, because essentially both of them are very similar. You are still taking a loan from someone, or the bank in that case, or in buy now, pay later's case, you are taking a loan from the company. In a credit card, you are taking a loan from the bank. So if you're not able to not able to apply for a credit card in that sense because the bank feels that your credit score isn't high enough, that you are not paying your bills due to whatever reason, you shouldn't be using buy now, pay later. But this is my personal opinion. So with credit cards, I think one of the biggest difference is that when you are loaning money with credit card or when you pay with a credit card, you have like 30 days to pay back the amount back to the bank or settle your bill in that sense. And after 30 days, if you do not repay that amount, you'll be charged a fee. With buy now, pay later, you're borrowing money from the company. So in Hani's case, it's Atomi, right? Atomi. So you're borrowing money from Atomi, and the only difference here is that the amount is split into installments. So like she's buying something that's $45 and it's split into $15 per month for the next 3 months. So this sounds pretty okay. It gives you a bit more cash flow. So one of the rules I have when I'm purchasing things is that I only purchase products, services, or maybe items if I can afford at least 3 times of it. So for example, if I'm buying a new camera lens that's $500 for example, I'll make sure that I have at least $1,500 in disposable cash. So disposable cash here means that money that you're not using, money that you won't have to use in the next 3 to 6 months. This is really extra money that you have, which is not part of your savings at all. So it's additional to your savings. So once you have that enough money, then I think it's a perfect reason for you to purchase something that you really want. But if you do not have much savings and this 1,500 is coming from your savings in that sense, then what if 3 months down the road, there's an accident, there's a medical emergency, and you require additional funds, then that is where the problem comes in. So I think if you're able to build a habit of having like 3 times the amount of what you're looking to purchase, this can be a good habit that ensures that you're spending within your limits and not overspending or leveraging too much on loans that might end you, in a vicious cycle, which isn't a good place to be in.
Its name suggests, this payment method allows Hani to pay for a third of her purchase upfront, which is $15 today, another $15 a month later, and the last $15 a month after that. There are no extra or hidden costs.
So I bought this jacket a month ago using Atomi, my makeup products. This perfume, hydrating spray, cleanser, mask. I've been using it buy now, pay later since 2 years ago. There's other options. Instead of just Atomi, I would say Grab Pay Later, but Grab Pay Later is more for my rides.
So now she has another bigger problem, right? She's paying her rides with Grab Pay Later. I mean, we have mentioned before, Grab can be a pretty big killer if you're using it on a daily basis to travel around. There are very, very good options taking public transport, and I think you shouldn't be paying your Grab with Pay Later. There is no benefits to it. So funny story was there was once they were pushing Grab Pay Later and I was paying for my Grab ride and they charged it to my Pay Later account. I was pretty taken aback. I wasn't very happy about it. I wrote in and said that I would love to pay this in full. I don't like the idea of owing somebody for a small sum of money, and then if I don't pay on time, which I probably will because I don't use Grab very often, you might end up charging me fees that doesn't make sense to me, and I don't want that to happen at all. So I think that nobody should use Grab Pay Later to pay off your vehicle transportation. No good reason to do that at all. No good reason to do that.
My favorite thing about Buy Now Pay Later is that I don't have to pay in one go during the month itself, so I can really split my costs. Whereas credit card payments is a monthly payment, and if you miss that payment, you would incur charges.
So what Hani say kind of makes sense. Like if you use a credit card, you gotta pay everything full by the end of the month. If you use Buy Now Pay Later, you can pay in installments, but still doesn't make sense. So I think something to take note is that both credit cards and Buy Now Pay Later do have payment fees. Although Buy Now Pay Later fees might be a bit lesser, but to be honest, nobody should be looking to pay fees at all. You shouldn't be paying extra fees. To be honest, there is no reason for you to pay fees. Why should you pay any fees if you are using money that you have, right? So do not try, at the end of the day, try not to pay fees. So across the board, there are many BNPL services in Singapore. There are many companies that do that, and they do charge a late fee, which is about $10 onwards. So for Hani's case, Atomy, for example, has a $15 late payment fee. So if you think about it this way, every time you miss a payment, it charges you extra $15. And then this will start to snowball into a larger amount, right? So let's say she bought that brow pencil, like $45 split into $15 for 3 months. If you paid the first one, which you have to on the first month, on the second month is $15. If you forget to pay that, you have to pay additional $15 on it, which is $30. And then you have to end up paying another $15 on the third month, which means you end up paying like a quarter more, 1/3 more, 30% more for the eyebrow pencil. If you have just bought it full in cash, or if you have bought it with a credit card, you pay off your debt, you pay off your credit card bills, you're gonna save 30% upfront. So this is something I think that people shouldn't just overlook. There are fees involved for sure. So ideally, you might want to pay off the bill as fast as possible. Try not to loan money if it's possible. I think that is the fastest way to screw up your financials, especially if you're young, right? I think the only time you should use Buy Now Pay Later is when you want to purchase something, you have enough money, and there is some benefit for you using the Buy Now Pay Later service. So for example, let's say if you walk into a shop, you see that they don't have promotions where you download the app, you get some cash rebate. I think those are pretty okay for you to use that one-time purchase, but ideally you should have money to pay off that item, that service, or that product that you purchase in the event you lose your job, you fall sick, or medical emergency arise. So try not to use it unless there's a really, really good discount that you cannot overlook. Then I think by all means use Buy Now Pay Later. Otherwise, if you have the option, try not to use it.
Would you say that younger Singaporeans are more in debt today compared to previous generations?
They definitely are more at risk of getting into more debt compared to the previous generations. Part of the reason is wide accessibility of different instruments that they can get into debt with. Credit cards have been fairly utilized. Buy Now Pay Later is also coming of age. So the issue is that when we have a scheme like Buy Now Pay Later, loan has two parts. One is the principal and the other one is the interest. So Buy Now Pay Later does nothing to the principal. The challenge is that there are other hidden costs that many people might not be aware of. Suppose you might not be able to make the payment for an unfortunate incident like losing your job or some other medical expenses that might come in. That might actually have an impact on the penalties that you have to pay in. That penalties act as sort of a pseudo interest in some sense. So even though you think it's interest free over a period of time, that might be one of the things you have to worry about.
Right, so I do agree with him a lot. I think like I mentioned, Buy Now Pay Later is not really interest free. There is always hidden costs. So if you miss a payment, you end up paying even more for the item that you purchase, right? And at the same time, I think more and more millennials and maybe Gen Z as well, they are getting to more debt because of all the marketing that we see every single day. And this somehow makes it feel okay to be in debt, because if I'm in debt, my friend's in debt, my friend has more debt than me, I'm doing pretty okay. So that's what a lot of people have as a mindset right now, which I think can be pretty dangerous as well.
We did a survey back in 2021. We found out that many of the young adults from 18 to 30-year-olds actually have unsustainable levels of debt. That's more than a monthly income, so between 1 and 6 month income in debt levels. To about 1 in 3 had that levels of debt. Now, if you look at it from whether they could pay it off under the current circumstances, it might be a little challenging.
So one thing to understand about that is that everybody will have some form of debt as they progress through life or in some point in their life, right? But one important thing is that there is always good debt and there is always bad debt. So good debt is something that you borrow money to purchase something that can generate you cash flow. So this could be like the home loan, because you can always rent out a room to generate some rental income, which can go into servicing the loan for your house. So that is an example of a good debt. But bad debts are things that you purchase and it doesn't really generate any form of income, cash flow into your finances, and you are just putting money out every single month to pay a debt that does nothing to somewhat improve your life. So improving your life can be very, very broad. That's another discussion. But the main idea here is, if you're going to borrow money to purchase something, that item, that product, that service that you purchase with a loan should give you some form of incentive, some form of income, so that your financials will not be broken or messed up in that sense. So good debt, bad debt are very, very important to understand what the difference of these two are.
A code of conduct for BNPL providers kicked in late last year. It's not mandatory, although providers will have to abide by it to get accredited. Under the code, all fees, including late fees, are capped. Users cannot owe the BNPL company more than $2,000 at any one time unless they pass an additional credit assessment. And if they miss a payment, well, their account with that provider will be suspended. But there's nothing to stop them from using multiple providers at the moment, and it's still unclear how this could affect their credit history in the long run.
So in Singapore, I did a little bit of research. We have roughly 8 different providers. I think up to date there's 8. There might be more in the future, there might be less in the future, no one knows yet. But if you think about it, it's $2,000 per provider. With 8 providers, essentially you're able to get like $16,000 worth of free cash that you can use now and pay later. But this becomes a very slippery slope, right? Because if you take 16,000 divided by 3, you're looking at roughly almost $5,000, $6,000 a month, which is like the average income or the median income for a average Singapore worker, right? And the thing about buy now pay later is that you probably don't have to go through a credit rating. You can probably get $2,000 of credit limit upfront. So this is very, very dangerous. You can get up to 16,000. I don't think anyone should be spending that amount of money unless you are purchasing really large ticket items. And if you're buying large ticket items, you should be using a credit card, so you get cash back, you get your miles, you get your points or whatever that you can use to offset further purchases in the future. So in my books, I think buy now pay later can be pretty dangerous if you're unsure of how to manage your finances. I think that is a conversation you should be having with yourself, or if you have a partner, have that conversation. If you need set up gyro so that your money gets split automatically every time you receive your salary. So this way it prevents you from looking at your account, thinking whether you should buy something, even though you cannot afford it. So this brings us to the end of today's video. Let me know your thoughts about buy now pay later. Do you think it's something good? Do you think it's something bad? And it would be tremendous if you're able to drop a like for this video, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one.